So just imagine all of those kids that have been bullied that either become the bullier or are getting the abuse and the neglect and things from the adverse childhood experiences they've experienced, it, whether it be family members, whether it be coworkers, whether it be who it is, these things are happening in our communities and we're not really doing anything about it.
Welcome to the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast. Today I have Dr. Victorious with me, and we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic, very much needed. We're going to be talking about childhood trauma. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me. No problem. Any opportunity that I can get to have this discussion, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Why don't we begin with you telling the audience a little bit about yourself, your story, what it is that you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, the name Dr. Victorious actually was given to me. I am a first generation high school graduate. Surprise, surprise. It is Dr. Victorious because I have earned myself up in ranks to be the first in my family to receive my doctorate degree. It has been very humbling because I know of people that don't even graduate from high school. So it's an opportunity to be that person to come back, and just have that conversation with others and let people know that they can actually do it. I think a lot of the reasons why I pushed is the fact that I was having issues when I was a teenager. A lot of the things that these teenagers are going through right now are really realistic, and we don't have parents that really support us to say these things are okay or not okay. And I think when my parents were going through their issues, it led to a divorce, and that really had a huge impact on me. And so instead of doing something about it, my doing something about it was leaving. And so I went to not only graduate from high school, but to attend college. And so born and raised in Kansas City, but I received majority of my education from Chicago, Illinois.
Congratulations
Yes,
for achieving such an amazing feat in your life.
yes,
And
yes.
and I know it wasn't easy because that's what happens to most of us in life. When we're confronted with challenges, we don't have the skills or the grit, the resilience to go on, and then life takes over us. You're a perfect example for those who are struggling to know that you can do anything you want, regardless if nobody's ever done it. I mean,
Right,
didn't we think that you couldn't run under a certain mile time
right.
until it was done, right? And that's just the way it is.
And I think that's what it's been for me, which has led a lot of people. Not only do I teach ACES education, but I'm also a dissertation coach. I have done a lot of life coaching. I am not a therapist at all. Again, I think for me, it was when I was younger, I had questions, and my parents really wouldn't answer those questions. So
Yeah.
I want to say when I was in high school, I decided to become a researcher. So when I did go to college, I got my degree in psychology. But if anybody knows, you can't just get a bachelor's degree in psychology. You actually have to go and do a lot more. And so when the opportunity presented itself when I was an administrator in special education, all of my education came from teaching in special education. My dissertation chair asked me, she said, do something that you're passionate about. And I've always been passionate about understanding childhood trauma. But I did not know that childhood trauma had a name until I started doing research. And that name for childhood trauma is adverse childhood experiences.
Exactly. ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And the interesting thing is that more than two-thirds of children have experienced one of these, what are categorized as adverse childhood experiences. And a lot of them have
Yes.
experienced more than four. And if you've experienced more than four of these adverse experiences, you're in for a life of challenges and mental illness. And
It's,
so I feel
you
like
don't
this
have
is
to get that together yet. That's the thing. I think people have to know and understand a lot of this is really not your fault. Like,
exactly.
you couldn't control what we call the generational trauma that was brought to you. So, like, say, for example, I love my parents to death.
Yeah,
And I don't share their story because it's their story. But
right.
my dad was 16 and lost his mother. and had to raise 7 of his siblings. My mother was abandoned when she was younger, and then she was sexually abused when she was 16 as a result of that. I have a brother. I love him to death. Let's be clear. He's my motivation behind what I'm doing because, again, it wasn't his fault that he's here. But at the end of the day, I watched, all of the things. There are 3 different categories in adverse childhood experiences. There's the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, the emotional abuse, and then there's the abuse as far as the neglect is concerned. So sexual neglect is also a category. Physical neglect is also a category. Emotional neglect is a category. But I think, Naomi, what I'm excited about is the fact that there's another category that the CDC recently put on the CDC's website. So for anyone listening, feel free to go to the CDC.com. If you go to CDC.com and put in ACES, ACES, there's going to be a wealth of information that comes up. The CDC is what we use for pretty much everything. It's the Center for Disease Control. And they updated it June 23rd. And surprise, surprise, Naomi, things like bullying is now considered an adverse childhood experience. And of course, people are going to say, oh, I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, have you been bullied before? Because if you've been bullied before, you know how much that experience can have an effect on you. So just imagine all of those kids that have been bullied that either become the bullier or are getting the abuse and the neglect and things from the adverse childhood experiences they've experienced, it, whether it be family members, whether it be coworkers, whether it be who it is, these things are happening in our communities and we're not really doing anything about it. And people don't know that that's linked to your emotional health.
Yes, it
your
is.
physical health, everything. So if you want to know about depression, that's where it comes from. If you want to know about anxiety, that's where it comes from. But also, if you want to know about heart attacks, that's where it comes from. If you want to know about all of the things that happen, addictions, all of that. Yeah. And so my job, Naomi, is to really educate people to know, and it's humbling to know that just through ACES education, I have impacted so many people. And honestly, anybody can do it. The information is on the CDC website. However, again, it's getting it, understanding it, providing that clarification. And I'm telling you, I have people that have told me on a daily that just knowing this information has changed their life tremendously. It helps with their healing journeys. It helps with so much because that clarity and understanding is what we need. Yes. Mental does not have, if you think about it, they've gotten rid of all the psychiatric wards and things of that nature. They're not taking mental health seriously. Those numbers are expanding. Yeah. Which is the reason why they're giving the different medications and things of that nature. But nonetheless, I stand corrected, and I want people to know that ACES education can actually save your life. Yes.
Well, yeah, because it actually begins with self-awareness. When you become aware that what you are feeling is validated, then something clicks in your brain to say, okay, so I'm not the problem. Because a lot of the times when we don't know what's going on with us, like you, I had a very troubled childhood. I adore my family as well, but they didn't have the skills. None of these things are taught to us. And I think that these are skills that should be taught in school: emotional intelligence, self-awareness, how our body works, the neuroscience behind our development as we grow and become adults. I think all of this is necessary so that we can understand what's going on inside us. And so we need to be educated.
You're right.
And the lack of education is what's caused a lot of suicide, a lot of drug, alcohol abuse, technology abuse, hurt towards others, and hurt towards ourselves. And it's that. So when you say that it's just going on there and reading about it, well, that's what we need. How am I supposed to understand that watching the severe violence that happened in my home was going to cause trauma in me? Right? That me being born with a disability is going to cause certain impairment in me. Like being abused, and everyone's saying, oh, don't be so sensitive, but you're being abused by other family member that's always making fun of something about you. Oh, don't be so sensitive. And that is causing trauma in you. you know?
You know it, Naomi. You do. And I think we have a community where we're not in competition with each other at all. We just need to join together and bring this information out here so people can know. They'll listen to me through you. You know what I mean? So I thank you so much for this opportunity for even having me on your podcast because they know you and they know how hard you are working to get this information out there. So thank you so much because that's really all I ask is more people to step up and say, okay, really, this is hard. I've had people tell me, well, just I will rather hear from you than go to the CDC, which is fine. I don't care. I will do it. And I've actually had some people ask me, well, are you a mental health professional? I actually am, if you think about it, because when you think about it, my entire dissertation,
Yes.
which means I did the research, which means as an educator, not only did I complete a study, but I got permission from the CDC to do my own study. And I actually did with students. And so what's humbling is what I found out. Resiliency through extracurricular activity has now been included effective June of 2023 as a tool to resiliency. So
Amen.
I actually think, and I'm going to say that maybe somebody would listened. Maybe somebody took my research. Maybe somebody listened and said, okay. But what I think is that there's such a rise in mental health because we're not taking care of ourselves that the CDC updated this so they could say, well, we told you guys that cyberbullying was ACES, but oh, well, you didn't do anything about it. We told you guys that community violence is going to have an impact on you, but you didn't do anything about it. Weekly, there are mass shootings. And we're just saying, mass shootings, have a great day, when we're not thinking about the impact that it had, not just on the community, but on the individuals that were in that mass shooting. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
And those are the experiences that that will have an impact on us for the rest of our lives. We have to find out what we need to do to address it.
Tell me, how can we address it from not just an individual level, but from a community level? What are the things that can be done?
I like ACEs awareness. Now, me and you have spoken before. I will tell you what I am humbly excited about. I have been a mentor for over 30 years, and it came with the territory. When I was in education, it was just what I did. It came with my responsibility. But now that I am out of education, as you all know, education is very chaotic right now.
Yeah.
And the thing that they're missing is mental health, and that's my personal opinion. I think we need to have these conversations. It's not enough social workers. It's not enough counselors in the school. These kids are coming into school with these issues, concerns, or problems, and people are turning them away. Now, I will tell you, I do have a podcast, and my podcast talks to people that understand ACEs in their ways or their journey to healing. And there's a young lady, her episode just premiered today, and she talks about the experiences of having a mother that had 8 kids before her, and her being that 9th child, the abuse and neglect was there. And just to hear her have this, share the story, but share how she's healed and the things that she's doing is amazing to me. So, of course, you have to have those platforms. Your platform right here is a great podcast to have these, these discussions and share this information with others so they can also educate themselves and learn what to do to address these things. Resiliency, information, support, guidance. I have people already that are giving free webinars. I send out myself a newspaper where I let people know there's resources out here. I understand that people are scared of therapy, but don't be. I've talked to therapists on my podcast. I've talked to educators. I've talked to people that have went through different types of therapy, because therapy just isn't sitting on a couch.
Yes.
There's different types of things that you can do to help yourself. Yes.
Yes, and you have to try different things. And the whole point of that I see in this journey is not giving up, because I personally, I did the therapy for many years, And then I tried the medications for many years. And what worked for me was coaching, mentoring, personal development,
Mhm.
in focusing on the future, setting a goal, setting plans, becoming aware of what was going on within me. For some, therapy works, so it
Mhm.
really, really depends on you. But what we really need to do is really figure out a way to help, and I would say focusing on the family unit to
Mhm.
have a cohesive home environment, because it really starts from our home. The most important years
Yep.
of our lives are developmental years, and we always think, oh, he won't remember. You think he's gonna remember that? Oh, but we
Right.
do remember things even before the womb. We
Yep. And
might
I
not
agree.
we might not consciously be aware, but we're subconsciously aware, and we carry those scars internally. And so that's why we need to address these issues. And what would you suggest to a family that is having trouble at home, whether it's the wife that has the husband who is very violent, or even a child, because there are some youth that are experiencing some form of abuse at home, whether it's a very critical parent or whether it's emotional neglect, they're still feeling the pressure.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you two. A personal example of mine, and I always tell my daughter that I share this because it actually had an impact on me. When I was younger, of course, going through what I'm experiencing, I have three young girls. I'm a single mother raising my girls. And I remember my daughter sharing the story with me of how she got in trouble. I picked her up by her arm. She had on a red dress, and I gave her a whooping. I think for me, it was the fact that she remembered and she remembered the details. Now, let's be clear. My response was the same. You remember that? So my response was the same response as anyone else. But again, that's how she felt. I was the one that was creating this traumatic experience for her. She was the one that experienced it. And she used to talk about it often, which let me know, and I think that had a real impact on her. So, therapy, I asked her, and she said it really had a huge impact on her because she still doesn't understand why I picked her up. And she always describes it and she picks up her arm, which lets me know maybe I picked her up from my arm or something. I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't know. But from that point forward, I do not punish my children that way because, again, whereas our generation say, well, that's how we was raised. That's how these kids need to
Uh-huh.
get it together. That's not okay. That had a huge impact on her. And guess what? I agree. And so now it's the conversation. So now, Dr. Tori, you tell us we can't whoop our kids. You have to understand it's in the eye of the person that is receiving it. Now, I know for a fact that my daughter doesn't like whoopings. So no offense, she doesn't do the things that she needs to do either. She's older, she's matured, she's done some things. So I don't have to go and get no belt for a 15-year-old, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's the fact that she remembers it. Now, as an administrator, I have a background in special education. So if you know anything about special education, that's where my interest in adverse childhood experiences come from.
Good.
In special education, emotional disturbance is a category under the special education umbrella. And I found as an administrator that not only teachers, but parents were recommending their kids for special education. So that's a political issue for me, and that's a problem because
Yes.
the last school that I was in, we tested so many students, 40% of those students did not even qualify for special education. So not only is the school missing on funding because those tests cost a lot of money, there's no reason, you know what I mean? There's something else going on besides the emotional disturbance that people want to label for these kids. And so there was a situation where the kid was recommended for special education. And this young man actually qualified. What he did was the school was trying to kick him out. He's in the kindergarten. The school district only has a school for K through 12 for their alternative school, which means this kindergartner would have been placed in an alternative school with K through 12 students. And what the young man did was threaten his teacher and told his teacher that he was going to cut her throat with some scissors.
Okay.
And so she reported it. The school said, we're going to kick him out and put him in an alternative school.
Okay.
Well, here it comes with us in special education. Well, Naomi, I'll be totally honest with you. I did talk to the mother because I needed the mother to know that what's going on at home has a huge impact on her son. And what's happening is that they're about to kick him out of the school. The son is also a twin. So it's like, what do you do? So
Oh,
I actually had a heart to heart with the mother. I did. Was it in my job description? No, no. Was I supposed to do that? No, but I did it. And I let the mother know how much of the abuse and neglect that she has been going through has an impact on her kids. And she listened. And so when we went into that meeting, I told her the services that we can offer in special education, which was for her to accept that because she didn't want her kids to go to another school. But she had to listen to my idea. So she did. And when we provided the special education services for her son, he got it together. He was able to get counseling from school, not as much counseling as one would, but at least he was able to get that counseling and he was able to stay at the school. So just imagine he's in the kindergarten and the school is making a recommendation to send him into an alternative school.
yes.
That would have disturbed him for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. And so you've seen an improvement also in his behavior and everything as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, I had to educate the mother on ACEs, but then again, let her know, no offense, mom, I don't know you, but whatever you're going through personally has had an effect on your son. He's not supposed to be coming to school threatening a teacher.
Exactly.
It's nice. And guess what? If I wouldn't have done that, this young man would have been in the alternative school, and who knows what this young man would be doing right now. And I'll be
Yes.
honest with you.
Yeah. And when you say that, it's also a concern for me because I am a teen coach, but I do have sometimes run-ins with some parents who get upset because they say that I tend to blame the parent. And I
Mhm.
don't want to put the blame on anyone, just like I don't blame my parents for the challenges, that
Right.
I've faced as an adult. It might have been as a result of my childhood experience, but they
Right.
were not aware of certain things. So we can't base our life on that. And I don't want to make any parents feel bad. But I
Right.
think that as individuals, we all have to start accepting responsibility because our world is hurting, it's in pain. We have
That's it.
over 80% of the world experience some form of mental illness.
Yep.
We are experiencing a crisis. So that's why I encourage, like I said before, every family to look at their home environment because that is the root of everything
It
else that
is.
happens out there. It starts in the home. And I
It
know
is.
some parents feel really bad when they have a kid that's acting out. They don't want to
Yeah.
accept that responsibility, but you do have to look at your home environment.
Right. That kid is acting out for something, you guys. And if you don't know what it is, send the kid to someone that does. My kids have been in therapy, let's be clear. Um, what's interesting is they were in therapy and then at the end of the school year they were like, your kids are doing much better than the ones that are on our waiting list, so we have to remove them off the waiting list so we can add more kids that need more help. That's how serious it is right now. And so I love this generation, and it is a lot of them that are walking around as billboards, mental health matters, or taking that advocacy for themselves to do it,
Yes.
because we're in dire need of mental health, and people are not understanding that it's linked. Your mind, your body, all of those things are linked. I mean, you can ask any psychologist, you can ask any therapist, you can ask any, it's all linked. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And for example, like I grew up and I did not realize that I could not concentrate in school. I was not doing well in school at all. I had no idea that when you have mental trauma, when you're in a flight or flight situation, if you have a stressful environment at home or whether it's in school or whatever it is, so your brain doesn't have the circulation, it doesn't have the capacity or the focus to be able to do what it's supposed to do. Everything else is going down to your extremities, and there isn't enough there for you to be able to keep up like the other students. And so all of these things are
Right.
important, right? And to understand that because it affects everything in your life and it affects your outcomes as
Yep.
well. What advice would you give independently to parents and to teens?
What you're doing out here, that's what the kids need. I have a mentorship program. You have a mentorship program. We got to get this information out here and let kids know there are valuable resources out there to help them, especially after school. If school is one thing already, it's a job to me. But then you have to find that thing that you really like, which is the reason why I always advocate for extracurricular activity. All three of my
Yes.
girls are in curricular activity. I know when I was heavy in, and I'm still heavy into extracurricular activity. On Saturdays, I would have like a basketball tournament for the kids in the community. If you think about it, I would do it also in the evenings. That gave me the opportunity to let me know if they're in this gym with me, that I'm providing that safe environment.
Yes.
I'm providing that safe space for them. So heavy on, and shout out to, you know, your program, shout out to mine, shout out to the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, those type of things that are heavy on extracurricular activity. Because if you think about it, it's really keeping the kids out of trouble.
Yes.
It's giving them cohesion, giving them the social aspects that they need, their interaction, the support. They're doing that. And there are so many peer support groups out there that can actually help too. I have tons of resources. So again, it's about being in those spaces that make you feel comfortable, to where you can open up and say, okay, these things are happening. How can I do this help for myself? So you have to
Absolutely.
educate yourself as well.
Exactly. Oh no, it takes a lot of self-education to be able to do all of
Mhm.
this. But you know what I always say, nothing worthy or nothing valuable ever comes easy or free. You have to invest in it, whether it's your time or your money, you
Yep.
have to invest in it for you to get good results. So I love that, and I totally
And I
agree because
think for me, yeah.
yes, yes, and you know, they do need extracurricular activities. They do need something to focus on. You know, there's a text in the Bible that says, "Idle hands are the hands of the devil." You know,
Mm.
boredom is what gets a lot of teens in trouble. I know boredom has gotten me in trouble. So I am big
Mhm.
for what you said, extracurricular activities and helping youth figure out where their passions lie in. Because when you have something to look forward to, something that you aspire to, something that gets you up out of bed, well, you know what? Your lack of motivation, your laziness, you're spending hours on the internet or in front of a video game or not
Right.
wanting to, all of that,
Right.
all that anxiety, all of that dissipates because now your energy is focused in a positive area. That is
Hmm.
fantastic. So tell everyone where it is they can find you. We're going to add all of Dr. Victoria's links. But if you want more information on ACEs, if you want more information, counseling, anything, go visit Dr.
Available.
Victoria's, but let us know the best way to find you and
Okay,
your
there is
information.
Dr. Perfect. There's Dr. Victorious. You can go to bevictorious.com. You can also find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I even have a page on TikTok. I'm one of those mothers that, do the dancing with my kids. I think it's hilarious. I
Yeah,
also have
I
an
know.
educational page on there as well. I'm proud of my podcast because, again, I have people, and I'm pretty booked, which I'm excited about, that really want to share their stories. And even though people's stories are different, it's the authenticity of the stories that are so relatable. So I'm excited about that. So Dr. Victorious everywhere, bevictorious.com. And then again, I have a new foundation that has started, Be Victorious Foundation, which is a mentorship program that mentors students with ACES.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you for being with us here on the podcast and for giving us all your information and sharing your stories. Yes, I hope everyone got the most out of it. And of course, if you are a family that is experiencing anything like that, if your child is going through a difficult time, check out Dr. Victoria's resources so that you can figure out what it is that you can do, what's available out there, and so your family can get the help they need, because in the end, that is what we want.
Great. Thank
Yes.
you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thanks to all our viewers for spending another week with us. We hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time, we will see you on our following episode of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey, Rockstars! That wraps up another electrifying episode of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of incredible minds shaping their destinies in the world of business, solo, and entrepreneurship. Now, before you hit that pause button, I've got some exciting news for you. If you're ready to take control of your life, eliminate anxiety, insecurity, and fear, then look no further. Head over to the teenrockstarentrepreneur.org website to grab your very own copy of the comprehensive 140-page Designer Life Blueprint Teen Workbook. This workbook isn't just a guide, it's a roadmap to unleashing your true potential. Packed with insights, exercises, and strategies, it's your key to crafting the life you've always dreamed of. A life where challenges are conquered, dreams are pursued, and happiness is your companion. So what are you waiting for? Visit teenrockstarentrepreneur.org and kickstart your journey to a life of purpose, passion, and success. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and remember, your journey is just getting started. Until next time, keep rocking and rolling towards your dreams.